Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and with me today is Jodi Wellman, the founder of 4,000 Mondays. Now, Jodi is a leading authority on the science of happiness and living lives worth living. And as a speaker, a consultant, and a coach, she helps her clients live what she calls a squander-free life, while they're still lucky enough to still be above ground, while cleverly beginning with the big end in mind, which we'll talk about. Welcome to the show, Jodi.
Thank you so much, Jack. Excited to be chatting with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you here because I think your work's really important and really interesting. So I'd like to start by talking about your TEDx talk, which is entitled How Death Can Bring You Back to Life. I noticed you've garnered over 300,000 views in just the first couple of months since it came out. And I also know you're available as a professional speaker to talk on a topic. So let's talk about what you talked about in your TED Talk and what your main message is in general.
Okay, great. Happy to dive into that. And I'm conscious as you're saying this, Jack, it's maybe a little bit of a curveball to have a motivational speaker talking about our mortality, right? Mm-hmm. But that's where I think we can have fun with it. And it's really based in a lot of research. And I don't want to bore you with the details, but I'll just tell you about this thing called temporal scarcity. And it's this idea that when there's a resource or anything that we do value, that we know that it's finite. Okay, like our lives, we know that they all have expiry dates. This isn't new to any of us. But when we really get in touch with that, it has this powerful effect of waking us up and making us realize, whoa. You know, if I only have 1,903 Mondays left, do I want to live with more of a sense of urgency? Do I want to reprioritize what my life is like with this precious remaining number of weeks, or hopefully many, many weeks left to live? And that's precisely what happens. And so my goal is to get us jacked up and to get us really woken up with these spark plugs that I really do think that it's called memento mori. It's a Latin phrase that means remember that we must die. It's ancient and it has such current appeal to us that let's tune into it and let's use it to our advantage in a way that does make us stop taking life for granted. Because I don't know, do you find that you take time in life for granted, where all of a sudden July is already a blur? I don't know if you feel like you take.
No, I'm sometimes like about middle of the year, I go, oh my God, the whole year, half a year went by, you know. Right. And in my age, which is I'll be 78 in a month, you know, it's a very powerful topic. You know, I remember I'm a professional speaker, and one of the things that really got me one day was someone said, imagine you only could give 10 more speeches, and that was it. What would you talk about? Oh. And then the question was, why are you waiting? You know, that's the most important thing. If that's really what you would be talking about, like, let's start doing that now. I think it fits right into what you're saying.
Yeah, that just the notion you just said about not waiting, that is a really grabby concept, right? It's that when you identify with some clarity the things that's more than just a bucket list, but fathoming, okay, this is the life that I really would love to be living. When you can identify that, and when you then tune into the fact that my time is numbered, my days are numbered, that's the thing that can get us, quite frankly, that's the sense of urgency that we do need, because we do get complacent. It's normal, right?
No, it's true. It's very true. And I think that, you know, when we realize that, I saw something, I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, that someone had, I think they put marbles on the floor. And then they said this many days or this many hours you're sleeping, this many hours you're doing this and you're working. And then how many days do you really have left to do the things you love to do? And it was not all that many. So it really does make you go, hey, I better get onto it, you know? Okay.
You just took me up to a whole new level, Jack, because what I see now is it's more than just the number of Mondays left. It's like the waking hours in our Mondays left. Because you're right, we're sleeping a lot of it away.
Exactly.
So you gave me a good idea. Thanks.
Exactly. You're welcome. Now, one of the things you talk about is how we slip into autopilot and we become what you call impressively functioning zombies. What advice do you have for us to help us stop taking life for granted?
Ooh, how much time do we have? Let me tell you. Well, as discussed, not enough time, right? You know, this question reminds me of a Ben Franklin quote, and I might botch it up, but something like, some people die at 25, but aren't buried until 75, right? Like that idea that, again, you know, we get into this comatose, like we get into a routine, we get into habit. And next thing you know, like we said, the half the year has gone by. Okay, so the way I initially think about it is I'm going to give three main ways that I think that we can prevent the zombie zone and live like we mean it. And the first one is what I look at as like diagnosing the dead zones. And I go back to my old management days with, I think it's Tom Peters, is like, you can't manage what you can't measure, right?
Right.
The idea of, well, you can't really feel more alive unless you actually pinpoint where your dead spots are. And so anybody that I work with or when I do talks, and it's like, let's pinpoint of all the domains in your life where you're feeling flatlined. And it could be with your health, it could be with your relationships, your love life or your lack of love life, or your work. That's usually a biggie, but really getting granular, like where is stuff feeling flat and dead so that you can have a fighting chance to really zone in and fix that. So number one is diagnosing. Number two, we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but it's this idea of shaking stuff up. Because as humans, we may not know this, but our brains are wired to need novelty, to need new experiences, because we get into these routines and yet we need the freshness of new experiences, crucial for the human experience of feeling alive. And so it means shaking up the routine. It means, if you normally take the same route to work, shake it up one day. It means order Thai food instead of your usual pizza on a Friday night. Or if you always do CrossFit, try yoga for a change. Little things that can just shake up our experience. And it seems subtle and silly, but those are the things that can just kind of jolt us out of the zombie zone, right? So we've got diagnosing the dead zones, shaking stuff up. And then a third way that I would say that we can prevent this and not take life for granted. Oh, it's one that I actually find to be a real bummer. And it's this idea that astonishing lives don't just happen to us. Damn it. We have to actually kind of work at it. And we have to, number one, identify, well, just like how we identified the dead zones, like identify where we come alive. So what's the stuff that makes us feel most vitally connected and energized and excited, and find a way to do more of those things. And so, you say, oh, I'd love to travel. Well, is it booked? Do you have it booked in your calendar? Or I'd love to see that friend from college more often. Okay, do you have a plan? Do you have that? When is that in your calendar? Or I'd love to sketch more like I used to, or I'd love to learn how to play the viola. I would never want to play, but do you have a plan? Do you have the lessons booked? Because you can schedule yourself for anything. And it's not glamorous, it's not even all that. We like to think that it'll just be this really, like, life just happens magically and passion will find us. No, it's actually kind of boring. Sometimes we have to get calendaring and planning, but I do think we have to plan to live like we mean it. And there's a way that we can do that.
No, that's good. When you're talking about trying on new things, getting out of the habits, I always say to people, think about it. You live in a town where there might be 1,000 restaurants. You probably eat at 5 or 6 of them. Whenever you go out, you order the same things off the menu, the same drink, the same dessert. And, why not, spice it up a little? Go try Vietnamese food. Go try different cuisines. Order a different fish than you normally do. Drive to work is different. Go to a different Starbucks. See what happens, and just breaking that routine, because we're habits are useful, like brushing your teeth. But unfortunately, we get into that, like, again, you're a zombie zone. You're just going through the motions, and there's no real aliveness, learning, growing, excitement, adventure that people are having in their lives. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah. It's funny hearing you say this too, Jack. Makes me think about, COVID was not very helpful, right? In that it really got us leading these narrow lives of feeling a little more, a little less open to new experiences. And now that most of us are feeling more comfortable to be out there, it is a great time, I think, to just say, hey, let's explore again. So let's not let the kind of the routine or the lack of a routine of getting out there with COVID become our kind of our way of living. Yeah.
No, I get it. I literally did not leave my property for a year and a half. My wife went out and did all the shopping and everything. And last Saturday, I went with her to the farmer's market for the first time in 2.5 years. And it was like going to a festival somewhere. Like, my God, there are all these fruits I haven't been tasting recently. And there's all these plants, and there's 3 different kinds of lettuce I didn't know existed. And I was there for 2 hours having the time of my life. And so
the kid in a candy store.
Yeah, I can really relate to it. I think, we're coming back to it. But I also think that the pandemic for me made me aware of some of the things I had been doing. Like, I was traveling sometimes 2 and 3 weeks a month, and the idea of being home more, I really liked it. And so I'm saying, that I like being home, being able to read and work in the garden, and, spend time with my wife and watch a movie and read a book. And so I think some people got aware of, like, their job was a dead zone for them. And if they were staying home, then maybe I want to do something different. A lot of people are exploring that as well.
Yeah. Well said.
Now, in your book, you talk about research into living wider and deeper. Talk about that a little bit.
Speaking my language. Yes. So when we are faced with the idea of the end, say by someone like me that kind of hopefully playfully and with fun gets you to think about it, often our first inclination is to react with, okay, how can I live longer? And that makes sense. And yet what I've researched through my time at University of Pennsylvania and working with clients is that I actually dispute. I say, hey, it's not so much about living longer. It's about living wider and deeper. And so it, of course, makes a perfect framework for a matrix. It's great for us matrix nerds, but you don't even need the matrix. Here's the idea. It's that we widen our lives with vitality. And this is all the pleasure, the fun. It is the new restaurant. It is going out to the farmer's market. It is trying new things. It's the kind of the hedonic side of well-being about what's the stuff that just makes me feel like it's light and easy and fun. And so that's the widening side. And that can range for each person. And I would never profess that there's a right or wrong way that you have to live with vitality, because like my idea of a Friday night is very different than in my 20s, but like, just give me a pizza and a movie and I'm happy. But that to me makes me feel vitally alive on a Friday. For someone else, it's different. But identifying what is it that makes you feel really great. And it sounds, Jack, like you've really tuned in more with the help of COVID with, these are my priorities right now. And that might change again. In 5 years, you might have something totally different to say. So widening with vitality, and then the deepening with meaning. I mean, meaning we all know is a real heavy hitter in the well-being world, right? So this is that connection and sense that there's something bigger than you, that you have a real purpose and meaning in your existence. And so it's not enough to just live wide and fun and have pizzas and movies and go to all the roller coasters of the world. So that does tend to feel empty after a while. To have that depth of life is the stuff that can make us feel like we are connected to other people, like we're making a difference, like the work we do in some way is in any way impactful. And again, there isn't a yardstick where we're measuring is your life meaningful enough? No, it's all relative. But only you know whether you're feeling wide enough to feel like you're in the plus zone and deep enough to feel like you're in the plus zone. And again, the goal is for us to feel like we have enough width and enough depth that we are feeling alive rather than in the dead zone, of course, or too skewed for too much vitality and not enough meaning. Or a lot of us feel like we can have lots of meaning, but not enough fun and vitality. So it's a balancing act, but it's a framework and a way of looking at our lives to help prescribe, back to the idea about like scheduling and planning the life you love, that we have the ability to do that, I think, by thinking of it across those two axes, if you will. Yeah. No, it's interesting. My wife and I, for the 3 years leading up to the pandemic, we would rent a house on the ocean in Hawaii every summer for a month. And we'd scuba dive and we'd, snorkel and we'd hike and we'd eat great food and go out for dinner in wonderful places and go to concerts and so forth. And so if we don't plan that, it doesn't happen, and so you can create a rhythm. I wouldn't want to do that all year long. I would get bored. I want to do my work as well. And we always try to find some adventure that's going to be something new, whether it's zip lining or learning a new dance or whatever it might be. So if you can schedule those into your life, and
fun. We play ping pong pretty much every day.
Love it. I would love to see a video of that.
Yeah. It's pretty. You can't believe my wife and I are that competitive, but we are. It's like, I actually go online and watch videos on how to be better at ping pong. I don't tell her that. And then I score and she goes, "Where'd you learn to do that?" But so it's a lot of fun. Anyway, I love what you're doing. I love this wider and deeper, not just longer. My dad used to say, "Are you living a new life every year or the same year over and over and over again?" I think that was important for helping me understand that it needed to be a constantly growing thing. So I'm sorry we're running out of time, but where can people go to learn more about your work and getting you on stage to speak? Where do they find out more?
Great. You can find me over at 4000mondays.com. You can contact me through there. Love to chat about speaking, love to chat about life, dead zones, all of that fun stuff.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much for the work you're doing, firstly, and then thank you for joining us today, Jodi. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jack.
You're welcome. And thanks to all of you for watching and joining us today as well. And make sure to tune in again next week, where I'll be interviewing another author who's a leader in the world of experiencing our full human potential. And then make sure to watch Jodi's TEDx talk and visit her website. And I'll see you again next week.